Hello everyone, welcome back to the Traxion YouTube channel and welcome to Okayama for this iRacing Touring Car Challenge track guide. Now, because Okayama is part of the base content on iRacing, there's a good chance that you know it like the back of your hand, but it's slightly different in the touring car because that's front wheel drive. Now, if you've followed my track guides before, you'll know that they are not a place for hot laps. It's a slow, methodical approach where we learn the circuit, where we talk about my braking markers, my reference points, and the little quirks that each circuit has. As usual, I will show you a flying lap in full, then we'll jump in the car, do a few laps, and show you those braking markers and reference points in action. Then at the end, we'll talk about pit entry, pit exit, and where I think you might be able to overtake this week at Okayama. So enough talking, let's get on track. So here we are then on the main start-finish straight here at Okayama. So as usual, we've set the sim time to match the official series. So it's the 2nd of April 2022 and the time in the sim is 12:50 PM. We're also using the iRacing sprint setup, which is what is used in the official series. Track temperature right now is 50 degrees Celsius. Brake bias this week, we've gone right down to 42.9%. That seems to work well. I've tried lots and lots of different variants. 42.9 is where I'm at this week. Now, we've all been round Okayama many times before, but it's completely different in the touring car with it being front wheel drive. So momentum is definitely key. So turn number 1, we're going to be approaching it as we normally would on the left-hand side of the circuit. Braking marker for this one, just after the shadow there, just before the tyre marks. It's the same with any car really. That's always a good braking marker here at Okayama. And we're going to be going down into 3rd gear. Now, it's really important that we're patient on the exit here. So we're going to be kissing this inside curb. And then we're going to be gently feathering the throttle in. If you feel it's going to understeer, just back off the throttle. You will get a bit of grip back. But just get as close to that curb as you can. Push, push, push. And we need the car back over to the right. Leave it in 3rd. It might bounce off the rev limiter. But that's absolutely fine. And just before the green curbing on the right hand side, we're going to initiate our turn in a little bit earlier than usual. And again, we're just going to be balancing the throttle. When you get to this point on the curb, then we can get on the gas. Now, we're going over a little bit of a crest. It is slightly off camber, so it might start to understeer. If it does, just flick it up into 4th gear, or you can just approach this turn in 4th gear, whichever you feel most comfortable with. We're up to 4th gear. That should stop the understeer on exit. Then we're going to straight line turn 3 as much as we possibly can. Same on this curb here. the approach down to turn number 4. Now this is always a critical turn no matter what car you're in. The exit is absolutely critical because it leads on to a long straight down into a big overtaking opportunity into turn number 5. So you will see people getting greedy and making mistakes into turn number 4. So we're braking around about the 75 marker. There isn't a marker there, but in between the 50 and the 100, and we're going to be braking in a straight line all the way down into second gear. And we're going to try and hold a nice tight line around here. And again, don't get on the gas too early because the car will understeer. And if it goes wide here, you're going to lose loads of time and potentially lose the inside line going up to the hairpin at the end of the straight. So a nice tight line. You will feel when the grip starts to come back, then you can get on full gas. A nice tight line all the way up here until we're on the straight, and then we can move over if we wish. And we're going to be up to 5th gear going down the straight, down to turn number 5. And the braking marker is round about the 100, just after the 100 on the left hand side. Then we're going to be braking again in a straight line all the way down into 1st gear. Now in a normal rear wheel drive car, I would hold a really tight line here. Well, you can still hold a really tight line, but I like to swing it in a little bit wide and try and keep up the corner speed mid corner. And again, on exit you've got to be so gentle with the accelerator, nice and smooth. The car will push out wide, short shift to second, move the car back over to the right hand side for turn number 6. Now you can see the worn piece of grass on the right hand side of the circuit there. That's going to be where we're going to be turning in. We're going to be lifting, trail braking a little bit to the apex. We're going to cut quite a bit of this curb on the inside off the gas, but then back on the gas here now and use all of this on exit. Short shift to 3rd. And we're going to use this curb straight ahead of us there, make the track as wide as we possibly can. And again, we're going to be off the gas, trail braking to the apex. Now, the exit of this turn is critical as well. It's so easy to understeer coming out of this turn. So you're going to be patient, wait until your car is on the apex. If you're on the apex in 3rd gear at this point, then you can pretty much smash the accelerator and it will run wide, but you will still have enough track to play with. And all the way up here, 4th gear, just after the 50 board on the right, we're going to be braking. Again, a nice wide line around here. Again, just play with the throttle in 1st gear because it will understeer. And the same here, we want a really nice wide line. Try and keep that corner speed up as high as we possibly can. 3rd gear, and then just before I turn in, I lift and up to 4th because it does bounce off the rev limiter in 3rd at this point a little bit too much. So I like to just lift, get the car to rotate up to 4th, the approach to the final turn. Now this one's going to be 3rd gear. We're going to be braking, trail brake to the apex. And unlike other cars, I always use a little bit of the inside curb at Okayama just to help whichever car I'm in rotate. But with front wheel drive car, it just seems to want to understeer just a little bit more. So I try and stay off the curbs if I can, if I want to get on the gas at the apex. And let the car run all the way out wide on this AstroTurf on the left. And that's a lap. Right, we'll slowly pick up the pace now. Hopefully it'll make more sense as we're going on. So just after the bridge, we're looking for those tyre marks. There they are. So we're going to be braking just before those, down to 3rd. At the apex, nice and gentle with the throttle. Just leave it in 3rd gear here. But just before the green curb on the right. Here, we're up to 4th gear. We're starting to understeer a little bit there. So just a quick change up to 4th. Just stops that. And down the hill to turn number 4. So in between the 100 and the 50, we're going to be braking down to 2nd gear. Nice and tight. And just play with the throttle. Keep it nice and tight though. Then we've got the grip now. So then we can give it full gas for the run up the hill. Now we can move over to the left. Then up to 5th. So just at the 100 border, just after, we're going to be braking in a straight line all the way down to 1st gear. I have a nice wide line in and play with the throttle on exit, nice and smooth. So just before the burnt grass on the right, we're going to be turning in. Use all of this, short shift to 3rd, and lift trail brake to the apex, then get on the gas at the apex. So the car pushes wide, but you've still got room with the curb. So with the 50 board, we're going to be braking all the way down into 1st gear. Again, try and keep that corner speed up if you can. And then the same here, down to first. Tried going through there in second gear. Just doesn't work. You just don't get that drive off the turn. Right, try and pick up the pace a little bit now. So we're looking for those tyre marks. That's the first reference point. Just before those. Straight line braking all the way down to third gear. You just play with the accelerator there. It's understeering. We'll leave it in third gear just before the curbs on the right. Then accelerate. So it's pushing wide up to fourth. Just stops the front wheel spinning. Just stops that understeer. And again, about the 75 metre board, we're going to be braking. Down to second gear, nice and tight. And get on the gas early, but only partial throttle, just to stop the car from wheel spinning, just to get that forward momentum going for the long run up the hill. Again, at the 100 metre board, we're going to be braking in a straight line. Nice wide line around this turn. And again, partial throttle on exit. Up to second, just before the burnt grass on the right, we're going to be turning, cutting this curb a bit, then get on the gas, and then up to third. Be patient here, a little bit wide there, we missed our apex there slightly. Up to fourth, at the 50 board we're going to be braking, down into first gear. Again, try and keep that corner speed up, really, really important. And the same with this turn, down to first. Again, you can't give it full throttle there because it will understeer as it did there. So a little lift, then up to fourth, then get back on the gas. Then we're going to be braking down to third gear and using all of this on exit. There we go, that's a nice steady lap around Okayama. Let's see what the lap time is. 38.694. Again, for the third week running, my lap time in the track guide is quicker than my flying lap after many laps of practice. We're always learning. Every day is a school day. Right, let's have a look at pit entry and pit exit. So pit entry and pit exit here at Okayama isn't too bad, as we've talked about before in previous track guides. Pit entry, it's very easy to get a penalty, so you just need to make sure that your speed is a little bit lower than you would think it should be. So pit entry is just before the penultimate turn, turn 10. We're going to move the car over to the right. There's a sign there on the right hand side. And this little first turn is tighter than you think, and there's the yellow line. You need to stay on the right of this yellow line. If you don't, you're more than likely going to get a penalty for an unsafe pit entry. And then there's another really tight right here. We're going to be in second gear. Then you can accelerate. That's not the pit limit line there. There it is there. So we need to get pit limiter on before the yellow cone, 60 kilometers an hour. So you just need to bear in mind when you take that first right turn, stay on the right hand side of the yellow line. Now pit entry is actually pretty straightforward. There's no dramas on exit until you pass the blue cone, because when you pass the blue cone you can then move across to the left if you wish. However, you're on the turning point for turn number 1. So the only thing you need to bear in mind, as always, is keep an eye on your relative. If there are faster cars coming through or you're getting lapped, just yield, let them go and try and tuck him behind them when it's safe to do so. But pit entry, pit exit, actually pretty straightforward here at Okayama. Overtaking though, going to be interesting this week. So overtaking then, this week at Okayama, I think it might be a little bit easier than it normally would be, just because we're in a front wheel drive car. I think there might be a higher chance of holding an outside line if the opportunity presents itself. Now, as usual, we're going to assume that people are going to defend, and we're going to talk about where I would try and overtake if they did so. Now, turn number 1, obviously people are going to defend like crazy going into turn number 1. They're going to be in this position or over here somewhere. Ideally, we want to try and follow them into the turn as much as we can. Don't let them move back over to the normal racing line. Try and get them to defend all the way up to the point where they're turning. And then at the last moment, we're going to move over onto our normal line and brake as usual. Now, because they have got a tighter line into the turn, that means that either they're going to understeer off the circuit into the gravel and then you'll get by them, or their speed is going to be massively lower than your apex speed is going to be much higher than theirs. If that's the case, they're going to be to our right now, and then we're going to try and get the move done here. Now this is where we might be able to hold an outside line here. You've got to be very, very careful with the throttle because there's not going to be as much grip on the outside because there's no rubber on the road surface. So we're going to assume that we've taken the inside line coming out of turn number 1, which puts us on the outside of turn number 2. Well, here, if we can hold the outside line around turn number 2, that puts us in a great position going down the hill into turn number 4. And if that's the case, we've got the inside line, and then we'll hold the inside line all the way up to turn number 5. Approaching turn number 4, if somebody's defending, it's going to be a very, very similar story. We're always looking to try and keep them on a compromised line for as long as we possibly can. So stay behind them as long as you can, then move over and try and take your normal, natural line. Now, this is where I think we might be able to overtake around the outside. Not here, going down into turn number 5. So we've got a better exit than they have. They're going to be over here defending. But we're going to just take our normal line. They're going to be on our right-hand side at this point. Now, turn number 5 is a turn which you could never hold it around the outside. But I think there's going to be a really, really good chance, just because of the way the front-wheel drive car handles and the lack of grip the car on the inside line or the really tight line is going to have. It's just going to understeer and push wide. Because we're taking a wide line, the understeer is not going to be as pronounced. We're going to hold it round here down to first gear, and again try and keep that corner speed up as high as we can. And if we are here on the inside line, we've got the overtake done. Again, give them room, but we're going to stay in second here and then get a really good drive out of this turn. Job done. Round here, we're not really going to get anything done. It's still going to be really difficult to hold an outside line around here. We're not going to get it done. So round here is just going to be a procession unless you get the opportunity just to sneak up the inside. And the same kind of story rounds turns 10 and 11. You're better off waiting until after turn 11 to try and get them down the straight, or try and set the overtake up going into turn number 2. But that's my advice. If they defend into turn number 1, try and take our normal line. Try and get them to defend as long as we possibly can. Take our normal line around turn number 1 and an outside line around turn 2. If you don't overtake them there, then it puts you in a great place to overtake turn number 4. Failing that, try and get a good exit out of turn number 4. Or up the inside, ideally, turn number 5. But I do think that it's possible this week to hold an outside line around turn number 5 and overtake them into turn 6 and 7. I never ever thought I would say that in a track guide. So there we go. That's Okayama done. Please let me know down below in the comments how you get on. What were your times before the guide and what were your times after? Did I help? Did I cover everything that you wanted to be covered in a track guide? This week's going to be really, really tricky. You've got to be super careful and super disciplined with your right foot. Don't get on the gas too early. As always, thanks for watching. Good luck. Keep it pinned.